The golden light of early morning spilled gently across the quiet driveway, wrapping the modern house in a soft glow. A sleek black luxury car stood waiting, polished to perfection, its chrome details catching the sunlight like silver fire. Birds chirped in the background, and the trimmed hedges swayed lightly with the breeze. On the wide stone pathway stood a man in a tailored gray suit. His polished shoes reflected the tiles, and his crisp tie was neatly knotted against a white shirt. Despite his powerful and confident appearance, his eyes carried a tenderness reserved for only one person, his little daughter. Beside him, the girl looked like a ray of sunshine in her bright yellow jacket. Beneath it, she wore a pastel pink dress that fluttered gently in the breeze. Her small backpack rested on her shoulders, and a white bunny toy peeked out from the side pocket, its floppy ears dangling with each tiny movement she made. She clutched the straps nervously, her wide eyes glancing between her father and the path that led to the waiting world beyond the gates. The man bent down, lowering himself to her height so he could meet her gaze. His strong features softened instantly. He reached forward and adjusted the tiny hairpin tucked into her curly brown hair, making sure it was secure. "There," he said warmly, his deep voice steady yet gentle. "Now you look perfect." The little girl's lips curved into a shy smile, though her small fingers still tugged at the edge of her sleeve. She wasn't just dressing for school, she was stepping into a place that felt new, big, and slightly frightening. Seeing this hesitation, her father leaned closer, his tone filled with reassurance. "You are my little star," he whispered, tapping her chest softly where her heart was. "And stars never hide, they shine." Her small eyes brightened, courage flickering like a spark. She nodded, clutching her bunny tighter, ready to face the day ahead, not just because of her jacket or her dress, but because of the quiet strength her father placed inside her with those words. The morning air was crisp, filled with the faint scent of freshly cut grass and the distant hum of traffic. The driveway behind them grew smaller as the man and his daughter walked hand in hand along the clean, tree-lined street. His tall, commanding figure in a sharp gray suit contrasted with her tiny frame skipping beside him, her yellow jacket gleaming brightly like a splash of sunshine against the pale sidewalk. Each step they took was more than just a walk, it was a silent conversation between two worlds. His stride was measured, controlled, the rhythm of a man used to boardrooms and negotiations. Her steps, however, were light and playful, as though she was dancing her way forward. She swung her backpack slightly, the bunny toy's ears flopping with each bounce, adding a cheerful rhythm to her movement. Other parents walked with their children too, some carrying coffee cups, others rushing with a hurried pace. But wherever this father walked, heads turned. It wasn't just the expensive car left behind in the driveway or the elegance of his tailored suit. It was the way he bent his powerful frame low, listening to every word his daughter spoke as if she were the most important voice in the world. At the edge of the school gates, children's laughter spilled into the air. Some ran ahead eagerly, others clung nervously to their parents. The little girl's steps slowed. Her hand tightened around her father's fingers, and her wide eyes scanned the busy crowd. He immediately knelt again, his expression calm and full of patience. "You're safe," he told her softly, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "And you're ready." Her eyes searched his, and in that moment, she believed him. With a deep breath, she nodded, the morning sun catching the sparkle in her eyes. She let go of his hand slowly, her fingers trembling only for a moment before she took her first confident step toward the gates. And though he stood still, watching her move forward, his heart walked with her every step of the way. The classroom door stood open, bright colors spilling out like a burst of childhood joy. Inside, the walls were decorated with crayon drawings of houses, stick figures, and smiling suns. Paper alphabets and numbers hung from strings across the ceiling, swaying gently as if greeting each new child who entered. The smell of fresh chalk and sharpened pencils filled the air, mixing with the laughter of children already settling into their seats. At the doorway, the little girl paused. Her backpack felt heavier than usual, its straps pressing against her shoulders like the weight of 100 small worries. She clutched the bunny toy peeking from the pocket, its soft ears her only comfort. Her eyes darted nervously across the room, at the children chatting in groups, at the teacher arranging books at her desk, at the bright posters that seemed louder than her own heartbeat. Behind the glass window outside, her father stood, tall and reassuring. He pressed one hand against the glass, his eyes locked on hers. No words could pass through, yet she understood him perfectly. His lips moved slowly. "You can do this." The girl blinked, her small chest rising and falling quickly. For a moment, her courage wavered. The thought of being surrounded by so many new faces felt overwhelming. But then, she remembered the softness in his voice that morning, the way he had whispered, "You are my little star." She straightened her shoulders, adjusted her hairpin, and took a single step inside. The sound of her shoes against the floor felt louder than it should, but she didn't stop. One step became two, and soon she was walking toward an empty desk by the window. The teacher looked up with a welcoming smile, nodding as if she had been expecting her. The little girl carefully set her bag down and slid into her chair. Outside, her father's proud smile widened. And in that small classroom, surrounded by colors, voices, and possibilities, a shy little girl began her journey toward bravery. The office tower rose high into the city skyline, its glass walls gleaming beneath the midday sun. Inside, the air was cool and heavy with the faint hum of machines. Phones rang, keyboards clicked, and voices carried the weight of deadlines. At the center of it all sat the man in his immaculate gray suit, behind a wide oak desk that seemed almost too polished, too perfect. Stacks of files were arranged in neat piles, each one demanding attention. His laptop screen glowed with emails and schedules, while his phone buzzed relentlessly with reminders. Colleagues passed by with quick greetings, their eyes filled with urgency, but none lingered. Everyone knew he was a man with little time to spare. And yet, even as he adjusted his tie and signed papers with practiced ease, his thoughts wandered far from the corporate battlefield before him. He could still feel the tiny grip of his daughter's hand in his own. He could still see the flicker of uncertainty in her eyes as she stood at the classroom door. He wondered if she was sitting comfortably now, if she had found someone to talk to, if she was remembering his words about being a star. At one corner of his desk stood a silver frame, simple but priceless. Inside it was a photograph of his little girl laughing, her hair wild from the wind, her cheeks glowing with joy. Every time his gaze fell upon it, the buzzing of his phone and the weight of his tasks seemed to fade, if only for a moment. The boardroom might demand his decisions. The company might depend on his leadership, but his heart belonged somewhere else. He was a businessman to the world, yes, but to one small girl, he was simply, Daddy. And no contract, no deal, no fortune would ever mean as much to him as that single, irreplaceable title. The afternoon sun leaned lower in the sky, casting long golden shadows across the playground. The school bell rang sharply, its echo carrying through the halls and out into the yard. In an instant, the building came alive with the sound of children rushing out, shoes pounding against the tiled floor, laughter rising like music, and voices calling out for friends and parents. Among the sea of colorful backpacks and bouncing energy, one little girl stepped carefully through the crowd. Her yellow jacket was slightly wrinkled now, her hairpin tilted after a long day of play and learning. But her eyes shone with something new, a quiet confidence that hadn't been there that morning. She clutched her bunny toy against her chest, her lips curved into a smile that spoke of courage earned. And then she saw him. Just beyond the gates, standing tall among waiting parents, was her father. His gray suit was still sharp, though his tie was loosened now, and the first hints of fatigue lingered in his eyes. Yet the moment he spotted her, his entire face lit up. The heavy day of meetings and phone calls melted away in a heartbeat, replaced by warmth only she could bring. "Daddy," she cried, her small voice carrying above the chatter. She ran as fast as her little legs would carry her, the bunny bouncing wildly with each step. Her father stepped forward, arms wide open. When she collided into his embrace, he lifted her high into the air, spinning her once before holding her close. Her laughter rang out like the purest melody, filling the air around them. "How was your day, princess?" he asked softly, pressing a kiss to her forehead. "I was brave, Daddy," she answered proudly, her small hands gripping his shoulders. In that moment, standing at the school gates surrounded by noise, traffic, and strangers, the world narrowed down to just the two of them. A father and his daughter, reunited by love that outshone everything else. The evening sky was painted in soft shades of orange and pink as the sun dipped behind the horizon. The family garden glowed under the fading light, its flowers nodding gently in the evening breeze. Birds chirped their last songs of the day, while the rustle of leaves added a quiet rhythm to the peaceful scene. On the wooden bench at the center of the garden sat the father and his daughter. His suit jacket lay folded beside him, his sleeves rolled up, and his tie pulled loose. He looked less like the sharp businessman of the morning and more like the man his daughter knew best, her daddy. The little girl perched comfortably on his lap, still in her yellow jacket, though it hung loosely now after a long day. Her small shoes dangled above the grass, kicking softly as she spoke. Her eyes sparkled with excitement as she recounted every detail of her first day. She told him about the colorful classroom, the new friends she had made, the songs they had sung, and how the teacher praised her drawing of a house with a rainbow. With each word, her hands moved animatedly, her bunny toy bouncing in rhythm to her storytelling. The father listened with complete attention, nodding, smiling, and asking questions. For once, the buzzing of his phone and the weight of his office work no longer mattered. Here, in the soft glow of twilight, nothing was more important than the tiny voice filling the evening air. "See, Daddy," she finished proudly, her chin lifting as if declaring victory, "I was brave, just like you said." He kissed her hair gently, his arms wrapping around her in a protective embrace. "I knew you would be," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. Behind them, the towering house and luxury car stood as silent symbols of success. But in that quiet garden, surrounded by laughter and love, the father realized once again that true wealth was not measured in possessions. It was right here, in the warmth of a child's trust and the bond they shared.